Hello everyone, welcome to the Red Men TV. I'm Steve Hall. Let's have a little chat on today's Liverpool news update. Going to be speaking about the Anfield Road Stand and Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's comments in his interview with Ollie Kay for The Athletic today about how he left Liverpool and a bit of a lack of communication apparently on behalf of Liverpool Football Club, and we're going to be touching on very shortly the proposed reforms to the English football calendar, with certain games set to be scrapped, with other games getting added. We'll get on with that all in a moment. If you are watching along live now, hello and welcome. Do use the live chat below and we'll bring your comments up throughout the show, such for example as Craig, who simply says, "Up the Reds, you'll never walk alone." Up the Reds indeed, Craig. Hope you're all well. And Rob as well, who's joining us. Thanks very much, Rob. Hope you're all well too, my friend. Yeah, right then, let's start with the story number one. According to a report from Simon Stone of BBC Sport, there are proposed reforms to the English football calendar. It could see third and fourth round FA Cup replays scrapped. Just go down. Yes, there's obviously fifth, sixth, seventh, all those rounds, the replays in those rounds have now been scrapped. There have still been third and fourth round replays. They are potentially going to be binned off, as is the second leg of the EFL Cup semi-final. Now, we've all been saying there's probably too many games on the football calendar, and these things have always been a little bit of a hindrance to some. However, it doesn't mean there's going to be less footy. It's worth mentioning there's no real date yet set in stone for these ones, although the new TV contract is set to commence in 25-26, so it could be from then. Glyn says it's about time, finally some common sense. I understand, Glyn, but I'll be honest, this is not because there's going to be less football. It's more because the European schedule is going to be expanded. So the Champions League expanding, all the European competitions are expanding. So effectively, there are just fewer midweek slots available for them to play these games. And that's kind of what we're at, really. It says here, domestic calendar will feel extra pressure next season when the Champions League and Europa League phases expand to 36 clubs, and then alterations to the UEFA match calendar mean the opening phase will cover 10 midweeks rather than the current 6. That's what it's all about. It isn't to do with getting fewer games. Now, certain clubs will get fewer games, of course, but I don't think for Liverpool it would mean anything whether they're playing Champions League, hopefully, or Europa League again. It just means if anything, there's probably going to be more football matches to be played. It'll just be they have to keep those free slots. So as it stands, as we all know, if there's a draw in the third or fourth round of the FA Cup, they then have a midweek replay somewhere down the line. Now, those midweeks might not exist anymore because there might be European football being played. And that's where we're at. Glyn comes back. I appreciate that, Steve, but something had to give. Yeah, absolutely it did. Once they announced the European schedule. But yeah, so it's only effectively 3 games, though. And 2 of those are never guarantees, and one of them only affects 4 clubs, the 2 EFL semi-finals. So it's not like a massive thing, but it does feel like that's going to happen. Now, obviously, BBC and ITV here in the UK, for those wondering, have contract agreements with the FA for the FA Cup rights. They run until 2025, so these changes probably won't be made until then, because there's been contracts signed around those 2 competitions. Now, obviously, we saw replays get strapped in 2021 and 21-22. Obviously, the COVID coronavirus pandemic shortened the calendar, so they did it. They brought them back. It looks like they're about to be going again. So yeah, just worth mentioning that one, worth keeping an eye on that one. The calendar's going to change, but I don't think it's going to mean less footy. It's probably going to mean a little bit less domestic footy, but far more European football for everyone who's involved. I say there'll be more English clubs in those competitions, perhaps as well. Tom Darby says, score prediction tomorrow. Tom Darby talking about the derby. I am doing the match preview show later, Tom. 2 p.m. on the YouTube channel. I've got 3 special guests coming in. I've got Sam, I've got John, and I think I've got Scott as well. Debut for Scott. Scott from Love Island is meant to be coming in, so there you go. There's one for you Love Island fans. So once I've seen the team news, once I've heard Jürgen's press conference, then I'll give my prediction. I already kind of predicted 3-1, but I'm going to wait for the scores to come out. But yeah, keep an eye on the match preview show a little bit later, and I'll give those for certain. When for once I'm going to be the most handsome man on the couch, because there's apparently a Love Island ex-contestant coming in. Although, you know, I'm in pretty good nick at the moment, so maybe it might still be me. We'll see later on. Right then, let's move on. Let's have a little look. Bramley Moore is more along than this. Worrying scenes from inside the Anfield Road. This is written by Peter Kenny Jones, friend of the show, over on Empire of the Cop. Yes, there has been I don't know if you guys have seen it. There's been a few videos on a social by Sean Patino. He's got numbers in his name. Showing the state of the current Anfield Road end. Obviously, the Buckinghamshire group went into administration. The Anfield Road has been delayed. There were meant to be people in New Upper Anfield Road for the derby. That has now not been the case. There have been people who thought they had tickets who have now been left without tickets. It's been a shambles, really. I won't show the videos on here now, but there are a couple of still images that I can show. It's miles away. It looks absolutely miles away. So that's underneath that's the roof. This step that you can see in the middle, that step is completely loose. If you go to Sean's video, you'll see the step is literally moving. There's wires everywhere. There's cracks. It's an absolute shambles. And yeah, it's a mess, really. Liverpool, they've said it's going to be at least until, I think they've announced already, the end of the year, but it's looking miles behind. There were tickets sold for certain games that they've now had to bring back. Now, says FSG tight fisting equals a slow and professional build process. Surely not. The stand looks crap and that roof is a mess. This has got nothing to do with FSG. I know what you're saying. I know a lot of people don't like FSG does, but it was the company that they hired to do it have got into administration. That's what this was. Our new companies had to come in and they're taking over that work, and it looks like what they've walked into isn't exactly the best job in the world. So it's been a shambles. It's getting to a point now where, and again, if you watch the videos, there are certain people who are saying like they'll be shocked if it's ready at all this season, which is a massive shame. I know there's been certain issues around Fulham Stadium with the same group, of course, as well, who got themselves into a bit of an issue. Let's have a little. Irish Rovers FC, let's have a look what he says. Anfield Road delay will mean an excuse not to buy players in the next two windows. Fact, FSG went for the cheapest option, and this is the backlash. I don't think either of those are the case, if I'm honest. I don't think that's the case. I don't think it was anything to do with the cheapest option. They went with an option of a professional building company who went into administration. I don't think it was anything to do with the tight-fisted money, that kind of stuff. Just turns out it's been a bit of a shambles from top to finish, really. But yeah, it is going to take a lot. It looks like it's going to take a lot of work. So I know there are people who I know, certainly people who had tickets for the derby in that stand who have now not got one, including people who had season tickets that had been moved around and stuff. So it's been a shambles. And yeah, it's not great, is it? It's not a great look. So yeah, the derby, again, the Upper Anfield Road won't be open at all for the derby and for subsequent games at Anfield. And obviously, as the bad weather rolls around, a lot of you guys won't be watching Liverpool. I am in Liverpool, and the weather at the moment is absolutely shocking. Like, I don't think there'll be much work getting done on any roofs for the next couple of days here because it's absolutely blowing a gale. So the delays are going to be ongoing throughout the winter. Everyone knows with construction, winter always leads to a couple of delays as well. I remember when I went down I think it was about a year ago now, to meet the guys from Buckinghamshire, and they'd already had delays. They'd had delays with the weather, obviously the pandemic, post-pandemic. They were struggling with supplies due to the backlog around the conflict in Ukraine and Russia and things. So they were already facing delays. Now they've gone bankrupt. Someone else has come in. It's all been an absolute mess. It's been an absolute shambles, and it doesn't look like it's going to be resolved anytime soon. But go and check the video out yourself. Like I say, I'll give you the guys. It's Sean Patino at Sean P471N0. Go and check out the videos for yourself and make your own mind up. But I'm not a construction worker. I talk on the telly and on YouTube about the footy, but even I can look at that and go, that doesn't look like that's something that could be resolved in a couple of months throughout the winter when the weather's going to be poor. But yeah, we'll find out down the line. Right then, let's move on to Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain comments. In an interview with The Athletic, Oxlade-Chamberlain spoke to Ollie Kay about his departure from Liverpool Football Club, and I think it's fair to say, I don't know, a little bit critical. I think critical, he said he was surprised by the decision. I'll just read it out for you. He said, I got told just before the statement, just so you know, we're putting this out about you, Millie, Bobby and Naby leaving. And I was like, oh, okay, thanks. But there was not an official at any point before. It was just, the silence was enough to know what the situation was. You just expect certain things to be told, whether it's good or bad or whatever. That's how the game goes. The lack of communication was a bit surprising to me. That's what Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain says about how he found out he was leaving Liverpool. He goes on to say, and it's fair to mention, it wasn't exactly a surprise to him that he was leaving. It was just, he was a little bit more disappointed in the way it was communicated to him. No one officially ever come to him and said, listen, Alex, you're not getting a new contract. It was kind of along the lines of no one said anything, and he thought, after being at Liverpool for a while and helping them win trophies, that maybe it looks like he probably deserved a little bit better. And I'll be honest, I think I tend to agree. Listen, it was obvious that he was going to go. Liverpool were never going to offer him a new contract, but I suppose the way he would have liked someone to be a bit more upfront with him, he just never knew until they found out they were going to announce it. So I see his point. Obviously, again, it wasn't a huge surprise that Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain didn't get a new deal. Liverpool didn't want to sign him to one. He just hadn't been fit and firing for long enough. And when he was available, he was clearly not in the manager's plans. Jurgen Klopp kept using other options ahead of him. Liverpool were obviously going to go into the transfer market and buy players who play in his position as well, which they went and did. So I understand that, but I think he's just let down a little bit. He just says, like I say, I expect certain things to be told, whether it's good, whatever. That's how it goes, and it was the lack of communication that was a bit surprising to me. Not the first time, I think it's fair to say, that Liverpool about players leaving. I think James Milner kind of made similar comments at the end of last season, where he was like, it was the board who kind of made the decision to let him go on a free transfer and things like that. Now, so I think it's fair to say, I wonder if Liverpool could look at that and how they communicated things to the players. Like I say, it was obviously he wasn't going to get one. Maybe there was just a different way of going about doing it. Maybe he feels a little bit disrespected or a little bit let down by how that all panned out. It's fair to say he's not critical of Liverpool and his time here. He says the group of players were so close. Everything we achieved together. It was an amazing team to be a part of. Absolutely amazing. So Ox has got no ill feeling towards what happened per se. I think he was just a little bit surprised about how it went. He had a few comments on Oxlade-Chamberlain. Ox could have been a great, but that Roma game killed his career, unfortunately. I'd expect LFC to be a bit more professional. And that's where I'm at. I've got no issue, really, with Liverpool not signing him. I think it was the right decision to let him go. There wasn't going to be a fee involved. Obviously, I think he turned down previous moves as well. But, yeah, I agree. It does smack a little bit of a lack of communication, a little bit of a lack of professionalism. Rory says Ox was electric before the injury. He was just a good lad with a bit of rotten luck. Yeah, absolutely. I think we'd all agree that was the case. Yeah, and Tom says the same. He was never the same after the injury. I remember his screamers against City. Yeah, this Oxlade-Chamberlain played a massive role in some of Liverpool's biggest wins. And again, before the injury, he was in the team. He was scoring goals. He was brilliant. By the time he came back, Liverpool had evolved past them, where they wanted more of a... They didn't really want creativity and goals from midfield. That was all coming from out wide. The midfield's job was functionality, winning the ball back. Wijnaldum and Fabinho and Henderson and Milner, a bit more dogged. It didn't really suit Oxlade-Chamberlain's game. But yeah, I agree. I think Liverpool perhaps could have been a little bit more professional. Although Matty disagrees. I'll read the second part of Matty's comment out here. I can't believe he has the audacity to criticise Liverpool. Sometimes you have to read the writing on the wall. And to be fair, Matt, it is worth mentioning. He does say that in the full interview. If you go over to The Athletic and read it, he did say, I wasn't. What's the word? It wasn't a huge surprise to me. He did exactly what you said. He'd read the writing on the wall. I think what he's saying is he would have liked for it to be communicated a little bit better. What I'll do, I saw this before. Give me 2 seconds. I'll try and find what Ollie K kind of said this. Obviously, he was the author of the interview. Paul Gorst tweeted about it, and then someone replied, and then Ollie K saying, I can bring this up for us if you don't mind, please. Someone, Azim did reply to the comments saying, he must have been the only one who didn't know he was getting a new contract. I really do live in another world, some of these lot, don't they? And Ollie K said this, and I think it's a fair point. To be fair, I think you've missed the point. He said it was clear he wasn't getting a new contract. The silence was enough to know. He was just explaining, because I asked him, how the club communicates him, and he was surprised by the lack of communication, as am I. So I think both are true. It was obvious he was going to go, but I think he was just a bit surprised with the way that it was handled. I suppose that nobody came to him and said, listen, here's where we're panning out, kind of thing. He's not an idiot, Oxlade-Chamberlain. I'm sure he was speaking to clubs. He goes on to say, again in the interview, if you want to go and check it out, he was approached by Saudi clubs. He thought of potentially going to Saudi Arabia as well. So he knew this was on the cards, and he was speaking about it. I think it was more along the lines of he was just lack of about the communication. Let's have a little look. Out of interest, says Dinger Bell, nice name. at what point in a title challenge do you pull the fringe players into an office and tell them they will be let go at the end of the season? That's all well and good, but we definitely weren't in a title challenge last season. We were crap. Now, it might be a top 4 challenge that Liverpool may be getting themselves into. I understand that might be your point, but you'd think that this decision was probably made in January. You've got to remember there was a World Cup break as well, so there was a lot of time for Liverpool to probably let Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain know. Now, we don't know when the decision was made to say he's definitely leaving. It might have been later on. They might have been trying to get a few ducks in a row. But yeah, I don't know. It's yeah. Personally, I think it's a little bit poor for no one to just come up and tell them. But yeah, you what's the word? You've got to believe that Liverpool probably could have handled it. Well, at least actually Chamberlain thinks they could have handled it better. And I think, I'll be honest, I've kind of got a point. Danielle says, isn't that what players pay their agents for, to find these things out? And yeah, like I say, Danielle, but again, these aren't idiots. Like I say, he knew he was leaving. I think it was more along the lines of the communication. He would have liked to be just sat down and told, we're not giving you a new contract, there's the reason why, etc, etc, etc. He's not an idiot. He probably knew that. I think it was more along the lines of, he got a message saying we're about to announce it, and he was like, oh really? Okay, well, thanks for announcing it to me as well. I think that's kind of the point he was getting at. Right, guys, I'm going to leave the news show there for now, because in just over an hour's time on this very channel, we will have the match preview show. Jurgen Klopp's press conference, of course, is at 1:30. As soon as that's finished, come back to our channel. You're going to watch that live, and we'll do our preview for the game. If you go and check out our sister station, Red Men TV 2, go and search that on YouTube as well. Jurgen's press conference will be out there a little bit later on as well. If you search for us on your podcasting apps as well, Red Men TV on your podcast apps, we'll put the audio of Klopp's presser out on there. All the shows pretty much that we do on YouTube are also available over in podcast form if you want to get there involved as well. So yeah, check out the preview show. We'll be live in about an hour and 10 minutes time there. I'll see you all later.
Thank you so very, very much for checking out the video. If you enjoyed it, drop a like. The season is now well underway. If you need extra Red Men content, be it podcast, videos, documentaries, interviews, and general shows, fill your boots on redmenplus.com today.